During the installation of the software for the Security Manager, we supplied some basic information, including an IP address, but to do the initial configuration for several of the other parameters regarding the Security Manager, we are going to use the web user interface. So to do that, we're going to take our freshly installed Security Manager right here at .110 on the 192.168.1 network, and from PC1, we'll go ahead and open up a browser. We'll connect via HTTPS over to the IP address of the manager. And when we log in, we'll log in as a user admin, and we'll supply the password that we chose during the initial installation of the Security Manager software on this device. And then at that point, it'll go ahead and walk us through a wizard to do the initial configuration via the web user interface. So here from our client machine, we'll go ahead and we'll open up a browser. And then we'll go to https:// and the IP address that we assigned to our Security Manager. Now, by default, it's using a self-signed certificate, which this browser can't verify the signature. So to continue on, we'll go ahead and click on Advanced, and then we'll scroll down and select the option here, Proceed to 192.168.1.110 anyways. So we'll click on that, and then from here we can log on as admin with our lab password and click on Login. From here, it realizes that this is our first connection to this unconfigured Security Manager. And truth be told, this system at this moment doesn't know whether or not it's going to be a Security Manager or a gateway or both. And that's one of the options that we're going to select as we continue through this first time configuration, is to tell it what its role is in our network topology. So we'll click on Next, and we'll click on Next again. Here's the IP address it has on Ethernet 0, which is .110, which is perfect. We'll click on Next to continue. If we wanted to configure the other interface, we could do that right here. I'll go ahead and leave that alone. We're not going to use that for the moment, and click Next. And then let's go ahead and give this a more reasonable name. And let's name it SECMGR for Security Manager. And let's tell it for DNS to go ahead and use 192.168.1.100, which is the DNS server that I have here in the lab. And we'll click on Next. Regarding time, let's go ahead and tell it that we want to use an NTP server I have also here in the lab, which is at 192.168.1.100. And click on Next to continue. And the top radio button is asking regarding the installation type. Is it going to be a gateway, or is it going to be used for security management? And we'll leave that top radio button selected and click on Next. And here's where we specify what we want to do. We'll go ahead and remove the check next to Security Gateway and leave the check next to Security Management and click on Next. It's asking if we want to define a new administrator, or we can use the existing admin account, which we'll go ahead and do, and click on Next. It's also specifying here that we can limit the source IP addresses that are allowed to connect to this system, which is not a bad idea. And that way people coming from invalid or unauthorized IP addresses won't even have the opportunity to try to manage the system because the server will reject it. And we can tweak that later. So for now, I'm going to leave the wide open any IP address option regarding who can log in and click on Next. And if we want, we can improve product experience by sending data to checkpoint. You can check or decheck that box as you desire in your environment and click on Finish. Then it's giving us a pop-up saying, this will start the configuration process. Are you sure you want to continue? And we will say yes. And then we'd let this run until it's complete. Now, in the interest of time and also a little editing magic, I'm going to speed up the time this takes to complete. So now we have a message saying we need to restart the system to finish the configuration. So we'll go ahead and click on OK to go ahead and reboot right now. Then after it's done rebooting, we can connect once again. And as a result of the initial configuration being done, it won't prompt us to do that same configuration again. So we'll give that a couple minutes to go ahead and reboot. Then after a few minutes, we'll go ahead and log back in again by supplying our username and password and click Login. So this time, even though we're going to the same exact URL, because the initial configuration has been done, it doesn't prompt us to go ahead and use the initial configuration wizard. In this nugget, we've gone through the initial web-based user interface and the initial startup wizard on an appliance that's going to be our Security Manager in our checkpoint environment. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.